Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sports Card Lesson Podcast with me, your host, Ken. I'm a retired teacher documenting my hobby journey here on the pod, finding teachable moments to share with all of you along the way. Don't forget to hit me up on social media on Instagram at sportscard_lessons. Hit the follow button. And you can also find me on YouTube by searching for my YouTube channel, Sports Card Lessons. If you like what you hear, please like, definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Welcome, everyone. Wow. This week, I am so excited to have Rohan Gaur on the pod. You know him on Instagram at Slab Mafia Sports, aka the Sports Card Mayweather, podcaster, collector, investor, and high-end flipper. Rohan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Happy to have you on, man. You're 21 years old. You have this massive inventory of some serious heat. Tell me how a 21-year-old has been able to accomplish this. How long have you been in the hobby?
I jumped back in, same as everyone else, jumped back in at the pandemic. I originally got in, there was, without going too much into detail, there's a lot of other, crazy things going on in my life when the pandemic hit, in addition to, being taken out of school and, being locked down. And, I kind of just needed a distraction from everything. Jordan documentary hits, watched the whole thing, needed some extra cash. I actually sold my entire collection when that happened. And sold a lot of pieces for way lower than I should. And, I got some really nice money out of it. And so that was really good to start. But then, it was actually selling my original collection off that kind of roped me back in. And so I started doing a little bit of research on cards. Next thing you know, you look at the word sports card once and it pops up on your entire TikTok page. Next thing you know, I'm doing Uber Eats for a living at the time. And I have an order to deliver and I have to deliver it at the Dallas card show. And so I deliver the order and, at this point I'm like, I might as well walk in. And I had a buddy that was inside at the time too. So, paid the admission ticket, walked in, met up with my buddy and, we go dollar box hunting. And, let's just say that by the end of flipping, that whole day, the whole weekend, I'd made my first $800 in cards. And so that was really cool to me. And from there, started looking a bit more into cards, started making investments. And, so I put a lot of my money into Tower Hero at the time. And this was right like when the NBA bubble started, right? And, next thing you know, he's dropping 39 points in the playoffs. And, my entire inventory triples, sell off most of my Tower Hero. And then, I get lucky, I buy a pack and I pull a Burrow auto. And, that kind of laid the foundation for everything was, that little bit of luck at the start by picking the right player and then pulling just the right card just consecutively was everything I needed. Now, after this,
I just wanted to jump back before, because I don't want you to go too far, but you were literally working, right? You were working for Uber Eats and you got a delivery and you decided, I'm just going to park the car, pay, and just go in and start walking around. I mean, was this planned or you just showed up and you're like, this sounds like a really better idea than delivering some more food today, and just walked in?
Well, because I was already looking into cards at the time before that, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was like, oh, well, I didn't even know the show. I mean, actually, no, I'll take that back. I did know that the show was happening. I had no idea that it was going to be that big. Because when I was a kid and I was seeing shows like, in the Dallas area, there was maybe like 30, 40 tables. And these are small free shows that, Rich Klein from Becca was running. And I loved those shows growing up. They were amazing shows. But, of course, the Dallas shows, on the complete opposite end of that, where it's over 10 times the size of that. I had no idea what I was walking into. I was like, well, if there's going to be a good deal, it's going to be in that room as opposed to online. And I was 100% right about that. And best decision I ever made was walking into that room.
Wow. And was that by luck? I mean, obviously, if someone called to have food delivered, it was really by luck to get there. That's unbelievable. Yeah.
I would have still looked into cards, even if that didn't happen. But I don't think I would have done cards full time if I didn't walk into that room. And what happened after that, kind of adds to that because so I started going into the local shop because I met Kyle from Dallas Card Show at the show. And I didn't recognize them at first, but someone from the show told me to go to a certain shop to submit cards for grading, and I had a lot of raw stuff that I needed to submit for grading. And so when I went to the shop, I didn't recognize him at first, but he was like, "Have you been to my show?" And I was like, "Oh shoot, I remember you from the show, right?" And so I started submitting cards through the Dallas Card Show's office in Wiley, Texas, and Kyle was very nice to me, taught me a lot about cards early on, and about 2 weeks after that, I wrecked my car, so I couldn't do Uber Eats anymore, and so Kyle offered me a job, and so next thing you know, I'm Dallas Card Show's social media manager, and that's kind of what started like the foundation for everything. The
Wow.
bankroll off the Burrow pull, and the Tyler Heroes. And now I had the platform to build all the connections I needed to really develop and learn in this business.
Yeah, and I'm sure you had a lot of people around you, especially young kid like you, around all these people, rubbing elbows with the right people. I bet you they were all looking out for you, trying to help.
Oh yeah, yeah. Very nice social atmosphere across the entire hobby. Everyone's like, trying to help everyone out. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think the situation could have gone any luckier for me, honestly.
Yeah. So today, right? How many years ago? I mean, how many years has passed now from that time to now?
I would say about 2.5, about two
About
and a
two and
half.
a half years.
Dallas
So
Card Show.
so in 2.5 years, tell me from that point to now, just a little bit of your journey, how you got to where you are now.
So, obviously you learn a lot of things, working for, someone like Kyle, and, the people that I worked with, a lot of them were, very helpful too. Like I had a coworker at the time that taught me a lot about baseball. So, the winter following, I invested a lot of money into Ronald Acuna, and, I was buying PSA 10s at $100, selling them at 300 towards the spring. And, that was a really good play for me too. Around then, the market started to flatline a little bit, and that was due to, obviously, as we know, Kobe, LeBron, a lot of other guys, their high pop stuff, just going too high. So from there, I saved up a little bit of money, started going to shows, and started flipping a little bit. Took my investment money towards just high end stuff, and then took the rest of my money and put it towards flipping, with the help of a friend that invested a large amount of money to invest with me. We were able to turn what was, I believe, 40,000 at the start to a 250,000 inventory in over a year.
Wow.
And although me and him aren't together right now, as far as the business goes, we still do a couple side projects together. We still buy cars together, and
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I think that's just another one of those things where if it didn't happen, then I don't think I would have leveled up as fast as I did.
Yeah. And are you completely on your own, what you're doing now?
For the most part, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends in the hobby that I'll go halves with on big cards, and
Mhm.
that's always been very beneficial. And I think that anyone who wants to buy a big card should consider going halves on it with a friend too, because now you're doubling your clientele that you can move it to. And so, yeah, that's something that I do very often right now.
Mhm. So let me ask you, with your inventory now, how do you source your inventory? Where do you go to find the cards to put into your inventory and to flip?
That's a good question. So there's different approaches to different things. I mean, I would say at this point, if I'm not going to a show, the most common way for me to get inventory is if someone's messaging me some cars to sell. I don't go out and search for inventory as much anymore unless it's something super rare, or from going after a certain player for investment purposes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say that's been the best approach so far, has been, just having people DM me with cool stuff, because my bio, you'll see it says I'm always buying, and
Yeah.
so that's helped me a lot. But other than that, I would say most of my money is spent at shows, and if
Yeah.
not there, then I'll buy a big card on an auction house.
Do you like the auction house? Do you spend much time on there, on the auction houses? Like
I
perusing or looking for cards?
I wouldn't say I spend as much as I should. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people where we're out at dinner at these shows, and I'll have tons of friends that'll be like, "Hold on, can't eat my food. Golden's run." I'm like, "Bro, who cares? Enjoy your meal." Like, there's more important things in life. But what I will do is I'll scan it once a week, maybe. I'll scan at least one auction house once a week, because I'm bored just scrolling through, and
Yeah.
I'll throw a couple players into the search bar, see if I find anything that I like, and sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm. I ask people all the time where they get more satisfaction out of winning the bid or selling the card for a profit. But in your case, if you're really not bidding, it's definitely on the back end of that, right? Selling the card at a profit.
Right. But for me, I think the most fun and the reason why auction houses are fun in the first place is I just like the satisfaction of bidding on stuff, if I'm being entirely honest.
Yeah.
It's
Who
fun.
who do you find to be your typical customer? So I know a lot of people that deal with higher end stuff. They
Uh,
have, they have like people like you where they're giving you wish lists all the time. Like these are the people I'm looking for. So typically, who would be your customer? Who would you sell to on a daily and a weekly and a monthly basis?
So on a daily basis, this is where my flip inventory comes in. I would say I sell to mainly to three groups of people: repackers, razzers, and then end collectors.
Mhm.
Those three more than anything. Occasionally I'll get, a good investor, but I would say I get more end collectors than anything. And these are guys that, generally have given me tons and tons of repeat business that I'm selling to more than newer customers. And, you know, in order to keep them spending money with me, I'll often give them a discount as opposed to a newer person.
Mhm. So as soon as you're getting inventory in, you're always just constantly contacting them. This is what I have. This is what I have. That type of thing.
Less me contacting them, more the other way around. I
More
have
than,
three outlets that I post to more than anything:
yeah.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So I'll take pictures of all my inventory. Usually you'll see me doing it at a show sometimes, just going one after another, taking pictures of the cards. And
Mhm.
then I'll post it to one platform, then I'll post it to the next, and then I'll post it to the third one finally, probably the next day. And then if, whatever doesn't sell over there, I'll try to post what's remaining to eBay or MySlabs throughout the rest of the week. But I can definitely get better at that because I haven't been listing all my inventory on
Yeah.
eBay as I should.
And do you travel for shows? Do you do a lot of shows? I mean, you're in Dallas, which is one of the best card shows
Yeah.
to be local to. But outside of Dallas, do you travel to shows?
I do. I do. So I'm currently trying to do two travel shows per month. These past couple of months, it's been closer to three for sure. I would say the past 3 months, but I'm trying to scale down on that. And I think after November, I'm going to be done for the rest of the year. But I guess the states that I go to the most would probably be California for sure, and then New York for shows.
So the New York shows, who is obviously I think it'd be Laz, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah, Laz is
Laz
a
show.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do all the Laz shows. And being here in the Northeast, we have a lot of shows. I mean, just a ton of shows, and we joke all the time. You could throw a rock and hit a card show here. I mean, we're very lucky in that
Yeah.
sense. But some of the bigger shows, like we love the last shows. The New York and the New Jersey shows. He really puts together a great show.
The main reason I go to New York more than anything is just because I have a lot of friends over there, and so I'm saving on hotel and everything too. And then like you said, there's so many shows within, like, I would say, a 30-minute to an hour radius that you can go up there any weekend, and you'll find plenty that you can do over there as far as cards go.
Yeah, yeah. And every weekend, I know for me, I mean, part of my podcast, part of what I do is I just talk about all the shows I go to. So every single weekend, I think maybe one weekend every 5 weeks, there's no show that weekend where I have to come up with some other content or an interview or something like that. But mostly I'm able to hit a show either on a Saturday or a Sunday every weekend if I'm not set up at the show. Yeah.
What's been your favorite show so far?
Well, the National, obviously,
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's been great, but uh, the last shows in New Jersey to me have been hands down the best shows that I've done. I've done the Sea Caucus show down there, or I think I've done it 4 or 5 times now, and hands down, they've been the best shows that I've done. Just constant traffic, the people spending money. Really, we're getting ready now for November 19th as Laz has a show um, coming up November 19th, and really kind of a barometer of what we've seen, like in certain shows that have been really good, that have been a little slower. it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like in November, that show there, just to give us a better idea of, how well traveled the shows are going to be. Is it going to slow down, or is it going to be the same as it's been in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think no, that's definitely a good point that you made there. First off, people don't. I like how you picked a unique one, because a lot of people, when asked that question, would say either Dallas, Chicago, or Burbank, if not the National. And so I like the fact that you picked a unique one. But I also think it's a good point that you mentioned how over the past month and a half, shows have definitely slowed down since, I would say, Burbank. And I think that's something that people definitely should keep an eye on. I think we'll see stuff start to speed up by probably like January or so. But, as of right now, things are definitely slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think it has to do with a lot of things. I think it has to do with, and this is just me, and I was just did a podcast this last week, a joint one with sports card therapist. And
Okay.
we just talked about, people are a little nervous right now because they're really not sure which way the hobby is going. And a lot of people jumped in the last year or two, because it was very lucrative to get in, and all of a sudden they see it start to slow down. And I think they're just looking to get out. So
Yeah.
the people who jumped in and who are jumping out now is kind of changing up the landscape for some of these shows. And I think what you're going to find is, over the last couple of years, these shows went from 30 tables to 50 tables to 100 tables to 200 tables to 300 tables to 350. I think it's going to start coming back a little. I think you're going to see the tables start to shrink down, but the crowds be the same.
I think so too. But one thing that I also think is going to happen is that I think just as fast as it's going to go down, I think it'll come back. I think it'll come right back up. And the reason why I say that is because this is the first real boom in the internet era. When you have a boom like that, people are at least going to remember it. And with how interconnected society is now, I think that market dips are not going to be as long as they were in the past. And I think that, we're not going to see, LeBron base Chrome PSA 10s hit 80K or whatever, they maxed out at last time. But
Yeah.
I think we are going to see a very liquid market come soon. But, it could be 2 years from now, it could be 5 years from now. But I think it will come within the next decade.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a lot like the stock market, right? It's going to be up and down, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait for it to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find, at the shows you're set up at, do you find the percentages that you're selling at? So, it was just good business practice if you could buy something at 75 or 80% comps and then go to the show and sell it at comps. It was just easy. But do you find the people showing up at your tables now are like, I want to buy it at 75% comps, which would mean I, being the dealer, would have to buy it at 60% or 50% or 50 in order for this to work. How do you deal with that, with you at the shows? And do you see that?
So, and I think I'm glad that you brought this up, because this is a topic that people, kind of stay away from talking about. But I think it's a topic that definitely needs to be addressed. But I mean, I actually buy most of my inventory when I go to shows off of other dealers. But the way I'm buying it in a way that justifies me buying it at a wholesale price of usually buying every single card at, 75 to 80%. Mm-hmm. And, obviously I'm buying that in order to sell it at 90 to 95. Now, in order to buy those prices, I'm having to buy 10 cards, 5 cards, 15 cards at a time. I'm having to spend, a lot of money in order to buy a certain amount of cards. If someone's coming up to my table and trying to buy a single card just right off the bat at, 75% of comps, it's most likely never going to work out, because, that transaction only goes one way. And, being behind the table, you're able to do that because someone can come up to your table under the assumption that you're buying to make money. But on the other hand, it doesn't work as a dealer selling to a customer, because that just looks like, I guess the right word would say it's just not enough when it's just one card, because, the benefit only goes one way.
Yeah.
But if a dealer comes up to me, or if a walker comes up to my table and wants to buy 6 cards at a significant rate below market, I could be open, because, that's a workable angle for both people, because it frees up some cash for me, and it allows them to make some money off the lot in wholesale.
And how do you deal with your stale inventory? What happens when you buy cards that just don't sell? Like you bought a card and you're like, oh, this card, I should move this pretty well at a good price, and nobody ends up wanting it. Do you take the loss on it? Do you try to package it in another deal?
So a couple things there. So the main thing is if it doesn't sell, and I would say within a week or 2 weeks, I can kind of get an idea of whether, the card is going to move at a price that I want to or not. And if I get the feeling that it won't, then I'll usually trade out of it. I don't really take losses very often. Or actually, I mean, if I do take a loss, it won't be a total loss in the first place. It'll be like, I'll buy 10 cards at like, 1,000 a piece, and then I might sell one for 900, sell the rest for more. So I'm still, net up. And that's the benefit of buying a lot of stuff in bulk, is that you're generally always going to be positive in your moves. But if you find that one card that you might be holding a little bit too long, trade out of it to the next guy. I mean, when you're trading, usually one person has a goal of liquidity, the other has a goal of holding. That's how most one-to-one trades work, right? Yeah. And so I've been able to get a lot of great deals with people that way, and they're happy with what they get. And then I end up turning that card into cash, and then I end up coming out in the green.
So, and I just want to make sure I understand this. What you're saying is sometimes you're going to take a higher card and just kind of trade it down for some liquid lower cards, or are we going the opposite? Just
can be either or. I mean, so here's a great example. So I had a Mac Jones Prism Black rookie auto, and I had bought the card at, I believe, 700 or 600 off the top of my head. I'd have to go check my spreadsheet. The card had gone all the way down to like $400. And so I was kind of screwed on the card, for lack of a better term. If I tried to sell the card, it would have been an awful loss. What I did was I took the card, added some cash, traded it into a Curry Contenders auto at the Dallas show. And, I took my cost base of 700, added it to the cash that I put in. I was into that Curry auto at, I believe, 3K. After you added the, 2,300 or so cash that I added, if I remember correctly. And I sold it for 3,500. So, now I turned what would have been probably a 40% loss into what's now a 15% profit.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and really probably as long as you're going up high enough, you're able to do that. And do you, when you trade, is there, is there always a premium on one end or another, like the price of doing business? Do you, and who made this up? and why, and why is it that way? I mean, why is there always a premium to be paid?
It depends. Sure. Let me see if I can find an example on my desk here. This is arguably the most liquid card in the hobby. Hank Aaron rookie. I mean, if you own one of these in, a grade without a qualifier from grades 1 to 4, there's a good chance that thing's going to be gone within a week if your price is, somewhat near comps. On the other hand, let's see, what's a good one? Trying to find one that has comps on his desk. Oh, there's a good one. I mean, it's still a great player. It's a Jordan card, UD3 insert. A card like this isn't going to be near as liquid as this one. So if someone were to offer me this and trade towards this, I would definitely probably put a 15% tax on that in terms of trade value towards what my cash price is. Right. But on the other hand, if someone's offering me another nice piece of vintage baseball, I might say, just give me that plus the cash difference, and then we're good.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's what I think too. If a card is, if the card is a pretty liquid card, you should be able to trade at the card value. And I've been at shows where I've had, some pretty liquid cards, and we start talking trade, and all of a sudden people want to drop it down $200, $300, $400. And I'm like, I can't do that. And it's not that I mean, obviously I could do it, but my thought is I could probably get all cash for that card. The next guy who walks up to the table, if that's the card he's looking for, because it's priced right, I can get all cash for it. So why am I going to give it to you for $200, $300, $400? Why am I going to lose on it when it could be an all cash card? Now, if I have another card that's been sitting in my case for 2 or 3 shows that people aren't looking at, no, absolutely. I'll whatever you want to do, if it's going to be, 60, 70, 75%, whatever it is, because at that point, I talk about this. It's doing no good in my case, dragging it back and forth.
And sometimes you might go the other way around and you might trade that super liquid card for, a really good hold piece. That happens
Mm.
because, hypothetically, let's say, and this happened to me recently, which is why I'm speaking from experience on the other side. Let's say there's a card that you personally value at 11K and you're able to get it at the price of a 9K Jordan Fleer rookie because, that's another one of the most liquid cards in the hobby. If you're buying that card to hold, that's a great move for you because even though you're able to turn that Jordan into 9K cash pretty easily, you're now able to get this, other card, this 11K card for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. So your business practice, and I don't want to say like I've had a business my whole life and
Mhm.
before and I started doing cards. So I bring a business mind in and I create my business plan and how, I want things to work, the profit I want to make. I figure out that, that I don't want to lose money. So you're at your age, and I'm not putting you down in any way, but at 21, I don't think you've had that much real life experience. So tell me what your business practices that you go by that makes, because this is a full-time job for you,
Mhm.
correct? So
Yes.
so when you sit down and you're talking your spreadsheet, like did you have somebody sit down and say this is the way you should do it, or is this something that you kind of trial and error and figured out, okay, I've got it, this works for me?
Well, so, I've always been good with, spreadsheets and stuff back when I was in college. So, I mean, I just wanted to see early on, like, how much money we were making, things like that. So I just started, I put the card's name, I put the grade of the card, and that's it. And then I put the cost, and then I put what I sell the card for. And then I have a couple formulas that calculate cumulative whatever cards that are actually sold. It'll take those and it'll take the cost number and then or it'll take the sale number and then it'll subtract the cost number and it'll let me know how much I'm making each month. So that's all I do as far as that goes. As far as like accounting goes, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, just kind of, and even like you said, you like the people you're selling to, and I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I guess I'm just saying is like the people who who kind of from Dallas that took you under their wing a little bit and helped you out. Did you kind of take a little bit of each
Yeah.
of the people you met and just put this together, or did somebody come to you and say, hey, this is what I do and it really works, and like just to get an idea of who you are?
So a little bit of both, like you said, I've been very lucky to have a lot of people in the Dallas area and in general that have had, a lot of advice to offer me early on. And so like, working under Kyle, I learned a lot. Early on when I branched away from working for Dallas Card Show, people such as Eric Myers at Howley Hustle on IG, he helped me a lot early on with, developing my business model and everything. And more recently, once I started the grading business, Sappy Sports Cards, they live like 30 minutes away from me. You know, Joe at Sappy Sports Cards has been helping me a lot with building out the grading business. And, just having these kind of role models in my life has really helped me build my business and try to create the best product that I can for customers.
Now that you mentioned it, talk to us about your grading business.
So we started very recently. I would say we started 2 or 3 weeks after the national. We're currently just doing Beckett submissions for the public. We're offering stuff at the same rates that Beckett's charging, but we're selling more of the benefits that people can get of submitting through a group submitter, which is saving on sales tax, having cheaper rates for insurance once we send it back to the customer, and then third, there is a good chance, not 100% confirmed, but there is a good chance that we get stuff a little bit quicker than someone would individually because our stuff gets sorted by a separate rep. And so that's one of the key benefits of going through a group submitter. And so we started very recently and we're just taking things slowly, but I'm very excited with what we've done so far. And it's fun and refreshing to try something different. And it's very exciting just, submit someone else's cards. And then when you get them back and they're gems and just, you get to let them know that you got a good grade from them, that's a very good feeling. And very few things in the hobby beat that.
Yeah. How many cards are you guys submitting now, and kind of looking down the road? What do you hope to be submitting?
So currently we're not submitting a ton. I would say we're submitting about 150 per 2 week period. And we're trying to keep it at that right now just to keep things contained, keep things smooth where, we're still understanding the process and, everything's going smoothly. But I'm hoping that down the line, once we build out our operation, we can get all the way up to $2,000 cards every biweekly period.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can work that out where people could just ship those to you as well. It's not like you just has to be people in your local area.
Mhm.
I know I submit to a local card store, and I know the guy personally, and he's always excited to tell me when I'm getting tens back because
Exactly.
his son has got a good eye, and you give him the cards, and he really goes through them well. And probably with me, he's probably about 98% correct on the tens.
Wow.
That's how high he's been, and they're very excited to call me. And I'm hitting the kid off all the time, but whatever. He's loves Jalen Waddle. When I can find the nice card, I'm down there giving it to him. That type of thing, just to keep hitting them off, to keep because it's huge. I mean, when you submit a card, the difference between a 9 or a 10 is huge.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so you're saying it's a kid that's doing all that.
Yeah. Well, he's the son. He's the one that looks at the card. I mean, he's really got a good eye for looking at these cards. Yeah.
One
No
thing that I think
machine.
everyone in this business needs, if they're going to do it, full time, is to have a good grading prepper near them. And, I'm lucky enough to have two really good ones that I go through, but investing in a good prepper can be one of the best things that you can do. It'll save you a ton of money on grading, and it can potentially get you higher grades because, there's always going to be that one card that you submit that had that fingerprint that all you have to do is just wipe it down, and they're going to be able to see things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there were a couple of cards that came out of like HGA slabs too, that I said, really look at these, and he said, yeah, we'll crack them and we'll send them, and so they were like HGA 8.5s or 9s, and they came back PSA 10s. So it was
Right.
pretty. And again, he prepped the cards to wipe them and did what he needed to do. But yeah, I was pretty excited. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, if you can do that, and people know about you, I mean that's just huge. I mean that'll ramp your business way up.
Preppers also do very well in this hobby now too. So, if that's a skill that you can develop and you have the patience and time to put into it, then I think that's a good thing that people should do too.
Yeah. So tell me about your PC, what you purchased that is never for sale that you keep, and maybe not, maybe everything is for sale. I don't know.
So everything has a price. Everything 100% has a price, but there's things that
you notice how I caught myself when I said that you'd never sell, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Well, then I got thinking, yeah, I mean, every card I have too has a price. Yeah.
Yeah, no, everything has a price. Everything 100% has a price because I'm not at the point where I have cards where, the card's more important than the money. And I think that, for each person it varies, but for me, there's definitely cards that I would need above comps to sell because, they mean a lot to me, but that doesn't mean that there's no price for them. Like, I'm a PCer of Yao Ming, Jason Tatum, and I would just say those two guys. Those are the two main guys that I PC. But, on my desk here, I have two, I would say, Grail cards of Yao Ming. So this one right here, you got a game used China flag on it. That's a card that, I bought it. I'll be honest with you. I'll put this out there. I bought this card a year ago for $1,500, and I wouldn't sell that card a dime under $2,500 because it's just such a cool card. Where are you going to find a game used China flag patch?
Yeah.
Rare. And then the other is just a super fractor. I have no idea what this card's worth. I'm into it for $2,000. I would sell for that, but those are two Grail pieces. And I think, due to people wanting to hold stuff that's rare and valuing it more than the money itself, that's what gets the market moving up in the first place.
Yeah. Do you come across cards that you're like, oh, like I want that card, like, and then you end up just selling it and saying I should have kept it? And
happens to me all the time. I mean, like with everything, honestly, I mean, you buy it, you look at it a couple of times, you enjoy the fact of, having it, and then you get bored of it. It's on to the next. I mean, I bought a huge grail piece for myself very recently, a Yao Ming Wilt Chamberlain dual autograph numbered at 2,
Wow.
and it's probably the biggest Yao card I've ever owned. But you know, I have no problem shopping it now. But just the fact that I got to say that I was one of the people that even owned that card is, cool.
Yeah. And do you ever see your cards come back? Like,
What
do
do
you
you?
see that
Oh,
card, like a card you sold, and all of a sudden you'll see it come back around circulation or be for sale?
yes, that's happened a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah. That happened to me. I bought a card at the Hofstra show last year. I bought a card at the show, and I loved the card. And no sooner did I drop it in my case, I bought it off somebody walking around. That somebody came up and was like, I want to buy that card." And they paid me double that I just paid for the card. And I only had the card for like 20. Yeah, for like 20 minutes, and it left. And I took a picture of it first, and then it left. And then I was like, "Oh, I really like that card." And it was probably like 3 months later, the card showed up on eBay. And I'm like, "Oh," and I went and I looked at the picture. It was the right serial number, the PSA serial number and everything. I'm like, "This is it. I'm gonna get the card back." And someone just outrageously outbid me on eBay for the card. And then that
Oh
was it.
god.
Card was gone.
I had a friend, and if he watches this, he's gonna think it's funny that I mentioned it. But he bought an Aaron Judge auto for like 1,700 or something at a show. Sells it to his friend for 5K. He's super happy, right? So friend runs it on eBay and it sells for 17K, paid for. And he was perfectly fine, but like
Yeah,
that's a lot of money left on the table for two
yeah.
people involved.
Well, I tell you, and I say this to people all the time, and whether it's right or wrong, it's what I do, and it's how I manage my business, right? If I
Mhm.
buy a card and I can get a card at 60 or 70%, and if I can move it to somebody, and I use the phrase leave a little meat on the bone, right? So if
Mhm.
I move it to you for say 90%,
Yeah,
and then you can take it, and if you want to keep it, you can keep it. If you want to move it, there's a little left for you too. And what I've noticed with those people that I've done that with, when I go to these shows, they're always coming back to me, right? So it's like all of a sudden they're all a customer for life, because they know, like, there's a good chance they may be able to get something from me that they may be able to move it and make a few dollars on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing is creating recurring business. And the best way to do that is to either have customers that are happy with the deal they got or customers that are profiting off the deal that you gave them.
Yeah.
And that's the two easiest ways. And, now I just remember the card that was a prime example of what we're just talking about. At the Burbank show, I bought a Bill Russell rookie for $4,300, sold it to my buddy for 5,200, who was also set up right next to me, sells it in front of me for 6,900. And so I'm like, oh, I just let that go really cheap, right? And anyway, the buyer of the card too was a friend of mine, and he heard my cost basis, and then he started making fun of me. We were just going back and forth at each other on Twitter, just as a joke.
Yeah.
He auctioned off recently, and I won it at 6K. So, I paid more than what my initial cost was,
Yeah.
but I still paid less than what he paid for it. And sometimes it just goes around like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I sold it for a cheap enough at a cheap enough number where the next guy profited, and then I was able to buy it back.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing? Like, you could let that card could go, and then you say to yourself, should I sell this card again, or is it meant to be with me? Right.
I really like that card. It was one of my favorite Bill Russell rookies I've ever owned.
So real quick, your thoughts, state of the hobby.
I think right now is an interesting time. We're seeing a lot of stuff reach pre-pandemic levels, which I think is a very good thing. The market's at a healthy point where the true collector can buy what they like, and I really like that. However, I'm not going to lie, me, like everyone else, is a little bit worried about the current state because we're seeing too many auction houses right now that are all going off at the same time. And it's leading to, what have been 3-year record lows on a lot of items. And that's something that can't continue to go on because it's going to, drive this hobby into the mud. I think there's a couple of things that are going to save this, which, if you follow Chris House of Jordans on Instagram, he does a really good job of talking about this. I think lowering fees on marketplace is a very important thing that is going to happen over time. It's guaranteed to happen. It's just going to take some time for us to get there. And I think that will help the hobby grow long term. I think that's an important thing. I think the security features of slabs, which are improving. I think that's going to help the hobby grow. And I think more than anything, have these auction houses, which are all going off at the same time, all offering, 20% commissions and, higher numbers than other financial sectors offer. Like watches, the standards is like 8%. Stocks, it's like, not even 1%, right? All these auction houses that are offering these extremely high percentages, which are going to go down over time, are all auctioning the same stuff off at the same time. So how are all of their customers, which are all spending money on the same platforms, going to, spend money at all of these platforms? It's just not going to work.
Yeah. And they're just fighting against each other right now. Yeah. And the price and the comps on these things are dropping because even if you wanted to bid on, sometimes two things are two different places, right? And they're ending at the same time. And, you really have to set your sights or focus on one and not the other. Yeah.
I think this could be a very interesting buying opportunity for people. And like I said earlier, I do think that things could start to speed up by January, like it did the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. But I still am a little bit shaky this time around, because this time around you got, 50 auction houses going off the same week, which, wasn't happening in the past. Yeah. That being said, look at this year's ups and downs compared to last year's ups and downs, compared to the year before, even when everything was going crazy during the boom. Compared to those ups and downs, they've all happened at the exact same times, right before summer, and then approximately a month and a half after the National. There have been the two biggest dips every single year for the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's almost like clockwork now.
Yeah. And the biggest booms have come, after the New Year's every single time.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to wrap up, but I have to ask. You have to tell us what's with this Facebook stories. How's the cat? Where's the wife? I mean, where does this come from? Where do these stories come from? And do people actually like they're expecting it from you now, or talk to me about that?
No, they're definitely expecting it from you now. So I would say if there's one thing that got my name out there more than anything, it was that, which I don't think people realize was a complete accident. So. It was my birthday. And so I just posted, it's my birthday, buy some cards so I can get myself a cake. And, everyone thought that was kind of amusing. And then, 2 weeks later, so when we adopted my cat, it said that my cat's birthday was like April 27th or 28th or something. So as a joke, I was like, it's my cat's birthday. Let's get him something. And then that posted really, really well. Like, 100 interactions, 200 comments, really, really well, right? So then the following week, I post something else about the cat, and then another post about the cat, and I was like, you know what? We're posting too much about the cats. Let me throw something fun in there. And then so I said, my third wife's leaving me. Buy some cards so I can buy a lawyer, and they really like that one. And so I just started alternating between them back and forth. And next thing you know, if I don't post that, people don't buy the cards now.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, do people buy the cards? I mean, are you getting sales on this?
Yeah. So the whole reason, after I did it as a joke, and once I started to like catch on to what it was doing, it's like, the reason why it works in the first place is because when you put something like that and people are commenting, it bumps your post to the top of the feed, right? And next thing you know, your post's on everyone's feed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's right. You're right, because I see it. My Facebook, for whatever reason, is the absolute worst. Like sometimes something's happening in my town, and the next day I'm like, oh, this is, and my wife will be like, that was yesterday. What are you talking about? But I'll tell you what, your posts, like every day, your posts are always at the very top. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So Rohan, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell you know what, we didn't even talk about quickly, just talk about your podcast.
Yeah. So me and Cardmon at card_mon on Instagram started a podcast. We mainly just started doing it for fun, just to express our thoughts and directions the market's going, and, kind of pick other people's brains. And, we'd love to have, as many people watch it as possible. I mean, yeah, we're just, our third episode is most likely going to come out next week. We're planning on talking about, the state of the 30 NBA teams and the directions we think they'll go this year in relation to the card market. But, we'd love to have you on as a guest. We'd love to have plenty of people on as guests, just to, kind of pick brains, see what other people are, thinking, and give them a voice, to the community.
Absolutely. Where can they find that? Where can they find that podcast?
You can find it on YouTube at Card Mafia Pod, or you can find it on either my Instagram or Iman's Instagram at card_mon.
Okay. And anywhere where else, where can they find you? If they want to come look at your cards, where can they see your cards for sale?
You can find my cards at Slab Mafia Sports on Instagram or Twitter, or Rohan Gaur on whatever Facebook group you're in. I'm probably there.
Well, Rohan, again, thank you for being on. Really enjoyed this episode, and yeah, I definitely I'll come on yours in the future.
Sweet.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you.